Ponytails. Read by Scribbler. To My Princess on the Day of My Departure by D.G.D. Davidson.
Dear Princess Twilight Sparkle, I realize it is presumptuous of me to write to your Highness in this way. Indeed, I am a stallion of no account, and I do not even know how properly to address a letter to a princess. But I am told that your Highness does not stand on ceremony, nor put on airs, so I pray you forgive me if this missive arouses your displeasure. Your Highness might not recollect me, though we met at the recent Princess Summit in the Crystal Empire, where twice, and again I pray your forgiveness, I foolishly and clumsily stood in your Highness's path. Although you probably never noticed me before, I have long known of you. Your fame stretches from Manhattan to the sparkling sea, and they tell of your brave deeds in every cafe or sarsaparilla joint in the kingdom, of how you returned Princess Luna to us, of how you defeated Discord, and of how you uncovered Queen Chrysalis at the wedding of Princess Cadence and Prince Shining Armor. Still more, especially amongst the guards, they tell of how, waxing wroth at the filly napping of 3 innocent foals, you ventured into the trackless waste to find Chrysalis again, and challenge her to single combat. It is in part because of that adventure that I write to you today. I must have entered training for the Royal Guard around the same time your Highness moved to Ponyville for the final phase of your own training, so I was but a cadet when you faced Chrysalis a second time, and I was but little more than a cadet during that which followed on your adventure's heels. Your Highness, I confess to you that I was one of the soldiers who fought on the Trail of Blood. The path you walked in victory, I walked in ignominy and defeat, and I cannot write to you of those unhappy events, except in burning shame. I pen this while sitting on a decrepit, wind-beaten dock in the airship port of Bottom's Dregs, the last civilized outpost down the edge of the wild. Only 100 feet from me, the EAS Wind Whistler, an aerial clipper, bobs on her moorings while the gusty wind attempts to snatch her dirigible balloon or rip open her tightly furled sails. Longshore ponies busily load her with the supplies we will need for our journey. Barrels of applejack and water, and crates of hardtack, salt, and dried apples. We set sail soon for Zimbabwe, and we shall not return to Equestria for 2 years. I am a mere air pony, and I come from no noble family, so I shall spend those years serving before the mast. I have no taste for applejack, nor for the merry rope's end, but I imagine I had best learn to like, or at least endure, both of them. Because of our destination, we shall have zebras aboard with us. I can see them up on the deck. Amongst them is the mare Mwana Jumba, the only one who speaks Ponese, though she speaks it in a sing-song rhyme. She is translator for the rest of them, and she is right now talking to Captain Jack Tar. From the way she keeps pointing to the south, I think she's telling him she doesn't like the look of the thunderheads building over the mountains there. I can't say I blame her. It's a frightening thing to venture beyond the rim to where Pegasi no longer control the clouds. I have let my thoughts wander. Do you know of the Trail of Blood, your Highness? You must. I am sure Princess Celestia must have told you. I am sure you must have discussed it at length at the Princess Summit. It was only my second mission, and I thought, for a time, it would be my last. When the Secretariat comet flashed through the sky, all of Canterlot was in chaos. Cloudsdale's Weather Bureau had not consulted with Canterlot's Royal Observatory, so a fierce thunderstorm had been scheduled for that night. Provoked by the magical aura of the comet, enormous cockatrices with bodies like snakes and wings like bats flew out of the lashing rain and drove down upon the city. Some even gripped towers in their powerful claws and toppled them. All soldiers, even the cadets, were called out. I barely had time to climb into my platinum night barding and take up my spear before a lieutenant commander shoved me out the door and into the night. The rain chimed rhythmically against my armor like hundreds of tiny bells. I was among the guards responsible for getting civilians to safety, so I did no fighting. Princess Celestia herself, fearless and unarmored, blazing like the sun, flew from her high tower straight into the fray. I caught a glimpse of her streaking through the night sky like a stream of white fire, and my heart swelled with that unique mixture of pride and shame that is the constant companion of all guards' ponies. We swear to protect and defend the princess, to lay down our lives for her if need be, and yet it is so often she who protects and defends us instead. Perhaps I should not say so, for guards rarely say it aloud, but most, nearly all perhaps, of the guards are in love with her. Some may swear themselves to her from a sense of honor or duty or from a desire for glory, but they are few and far between. Having walked so many years in her shadow, your highness might understand this. You must know what it is to live in service to a pony ageless and beautiful, who in moving the heavens delimits the time the rest of us have to walk the earth. To one such as her, we must appear and disappear like mist. Perhaps most ponies pledged to her service cannot help but love her. Only a few days after the comet, we learned of how, while we were battling cockatrices, your highness battled Chrysalis and sealed her in a prison in order to bring home the 3 filly-napped foals. You were not yet a princess then, of course, but most of us already knew you as Princess Celestia's protégé, and your fame had been steadily growing. We drank much sarsaparilla to your health when we learned of your latest exploit. A month after that, Princess Celestia selected a company of able-bodied guards ponies to venture along the same path you had taken to the Changeling Kingdom, which had formerly been Wovey-Dovey Smoochy Land, in order to help bring the land's inhabitants to safety before Chrysalis and her swarm could free themselves of your enchantment. Celestia herself decided to travel with us. I volunteered for the mission in part because I was naive and eager to see action, in part because I wished to explore the lands beyond our borders, and also in part because I wished to see the place where you had performed your latest act of daring do. Our march south was a glorious affair. We had all polished our golden armor to its highest luster, and as we passed through several hamlets on our way to the border, ponies came out to meet us, to cheer, and to offer refreshment. We expected this to be an easy mission, so we were all in high spirits even as we made our way through the old Diamond Dog mines and into the thick tangle of the forest of Leota. Aside from flies and heat, we met no difficulties. The forest was full of monsters of all sorts, of course, but there were so many of us and we lit such large fires at night that none of the creatures harassed us, though we often spotted bright eyes peering at us from the shadows or saw flashing movements in the underbrush. We emerged at last into Wovey-Dovey Smoochy Land. I suppose I need not tell you of the grim horrors we met there, of the cozy village of thatch-roofed cottages all bedecked with changeling slime, or of the tiny corpses the changelings had left lying in the streets after draining them of their love. Since the changelings were still in your prison, the native inhabitants, the Love Cats, came unhindered to meet us. I do not know whether you encountered these creatures yourself, your highness, but they are remarkable. Covered all over with soft fur and shaped almost like cats, but with short, fan-like tails, they seem incapable of any emotion, at least towards outsiders, except absolute adoration and love. As soon as we stepped into their wasted hamlet, they met us with greeting cards, hugs, purrs of pleasures, and offers of food. Such as they had, that is. They were all gaunt, and their eyes were hollow, and their coats were filthy, matted, and mangy. The changelings had decimated their population, but so ruined their land that the few Love Cats who had survived were starving. We distributed food from our supplies, to which the Love Cats responded by redoubling their affections. After we set a watch, we spent the night there. I awoke in the morning to find 6 of the Love Cats clinging to me and snoring softly. I supposed, then, that the march home would be uneventful, and I imagined that in 3 days' time we would return to Canterlot in victory with the Love Cats in tow, and that we would congratulate ourselves for rescuing them from danger. How wrong I was. We were almost midway through the forest of Leota, and Celestia had brought the sun near the horizon when they first struck. I heard a commotion and a series of unintelligible shouts and squeals on the far end of the column. That put me on my guard, though it did little good. I stood near a knot of 18 or 20 love cats, and while I was looking around for danger, wondering what might have caused the disturbance, I saw one of the love cats enter some low bushes, but I did not see him come out again. Curious, and with a vague sense of foreboding, I walked to those bushes and prodded them with the butt of my spear. At my prodding, a huge red flower, shaped vaguely like a tulip, rose out of the undergrowth. Rimming the flower's interior was a ring of inward curving teeth from which hung ragged bits of raw, bloody flesh. With a cry, I flipped my spear around and made to attack, but not before one of the love cats, a beatific smile on its face, ran towards the murderous flower with its forelimbs spread wide, as if asking for a hug. The flower responded by snapping forward like a spring, enveloping the love cat's head and biting it clean through its neck, producing a gush of red ink like from a snapped fountain pen. I thrust the monster through with my spear, but then I heard shouts of anger, whinnies, animalistic snarls, and squeals of pain from all around me. The creatures of the forest, too afraid to beset upon us when we had marched south, could not resist the easy prey we brought with us as we marched north, so they attacked en masse. With my blade dripping green sap, I found myself face to face with a horde of vampiric jackalopes. A few tried to bite through my barding with their sharp fangs, but most merely bounded past me and dove into the crowd of love cats. The love cats made no attempt to flee, but welcomed their predators, quite literally, with open forelimbs. Only when a jackalope bit into their flesh did the love cats' purrs of pleasure turn into shrieks of pain. Great Celestia, they screamed just like foals. I struck about with my spear until the soil of the forest had turned to red mud beneath my hooves. I could not tell the jackalope's blood from the love cat's nor from my own. The other guards fought alongside me, but no matter how hard we tried, we could not keep the love cats in a group. We could not gather them together to protect them. No matter how many died screaming, the others, heedless of their companion's fate, ran with affectionate cries towards each new hungry monster. Princess Celestia, her forelegs coated in blood up to her knees, galloped past me. With a sharp glance, she roared, "Do not try to hold the ground. If we stay, all the love cats are lost. Herd them, push them, carry them. Force them any way you can, but make them run. We must reach the mines." Then she flew past me. I would not believe it had I not seen it with my own eyes, but she reared over a slavering leopard-like thing and, with her golden bell boots, trampled it into the dust, heedless of the blood that splattered on her legs and belly. She turned and impaled a jackalope on her horn. Then with her wings she snatched up several love cats like a hen gathering chicks and loaded them onto her back and took flight. I tried to follow her example. I called the love cats with affectionate sounds and loving promises, and many followed my voice, but several fell to the shrieking birds or ravenous lizards before they could reach me. I piled as many as I could onto my back, but I could only hold a few. The others tumbled off. 5 rode me. I slipped my spear through the rings on my saddlebag so I could snatch up a 6th in my forelegs, and then I took flight. They were heavy, but they all hugged me with delightful purrs, so I had some assurance that they would not fall off. I thought these, at least, were safe. But then I saw another of those tooth-rimmed flowers opening its maw below me, and though I could scarce believe my eyes, the thing floated off the ground and headed my way. I flapped hard to lift up above the canopy, but the flower merely floated after like an untethered balloon. Amongst Pegasi, I am accounted a strong flyer, but try as I might, I could not outrace this carnivorous plant. It lifted towards me and clamped its bulb around the torso of the love cat I held in my hooves. A moment before, the love cat had been murring softly and petting the feathers on my fetlocks, but now he screamed and clutched me tight enough to scrape the fur from my legs. He kept on screaming as the flower's bud pulsed, rending and chewing its flesh. I screamed as well. I screamed at the love cat to let go so that I might grab my spear, the tip of which I could easily see jutting out beyond my chaperon. But I could not reach it, for I could not extricate my legs from the love cat's death grip. At last, the murderous flower tore the love cat from me. I snatched my spear in my bleeding limbs, but the flower floated beyond my reach, and I dared not chase it, lest I lose the others clinging to my back. After that, Captain Vanguard managed to reorganize us. The unicorn set up a rolling cascade of force fields to protect those love cats whom the Pegasus ponies could not carry. A few Pegasi remained on the ground to herd the love cats together and prevent as many as we could from attempting to breach the force fields and hug the creatures bent on devouring them. Princess Celestia I saw only once or twice as she darted between the trees like a ghost, striking down the most dangerous of the monsters that threatened. Through the whole battle, the sun remained perched above the rim of the world, unmoving. Celestia held it there until we reached the relative safety of the abandoned Diamond Dog mines. The monsters ceased their pursuit once we entered the mines. Once inside, we found a broad room of rock where we set up camp. All of us were scratched, filthy, and bloody, but we had lost no ponies in the fighting. However, we had lost a full half of the love cats we had gathered from Wubby-Dubby Smoochy Land. Princess Celestia entered last. She was covered in blood, as I already said, and I could now see that a good deal of it was her own. The same sense of wonder, pride, and shame passed through me. There was something humbling in seeing her wounded from battle, but also something glorious, as if the marks on her pure body and the stains on her perfect coat could only add to her majesty, never detract from it. Her misty hair flowed in its own wind, covering half her stern face. Her one exposed eye swept over us as we coughed, pulled off our champions, treated one another's wounds, and cursed under our breath. Surrounded by the 5 love cats I had saved, I sat and stared at the tip of my spear, which I had not yet cleaned. The red blood coating it was turning hard and black. The love cats I'd rescued petted and stroked me and climbed over my withers, but I paid them no mind. I heard a loud clank as of bell boots striking stone directly before me. I looked up to see Celestia's face. She was bending over me, and she said, "He died knowing that some pony loved him enough to fight to save him. For the natives of Wubby-Dubby Smoochy Land, that is enough." I broke down and wept. Princess Celestia, still covered with the gore of battle, bandaged my wounds with her own hooves. After wrapping my legs, she put down the sun, and we were left to mull over our failure in the darkness. We built a fire near the cave entrance and set a watch. I tried to sleep, but could not. Those 5 love cats who'd ridden my back insisted on cuddling close to me. I wanted them to hate me for letting their companion die, but they would not. Hate is not something they can feel. They are afflicted with a peculiar, driving need to love absolutely and unconditionally all creatures not of their own kind. It sounds beautiful, but I have seen what it means for them. It is a curse. I must pause, Your Highness, to collect myself. The memories are still fresh and painful. I see that the longshore ponies are almost finished loading the supplies. Most of the soldiers are already aboard, and the Pony Express mail mare is making her rounds to pick up the last of our letters before we set out for the wild. I must hurry. You know, of course, that we return to Equestria with the remnant of the love cats in tow. They will never again have the beautiful and peaceful society they knew in their homeland before the changelings came. Surrounded by ponies and other creatures different from themselves, they can do nothing but show affection. They cannot work. They can barely feed themselves. If they are to live, they can be little more than pets to us. It is a hard fate. This I should not tell you, but rage and grief have made me bold. Those who walk the trail of blood have made a pact, and we remind one another of it whenever we meet. Remember the love cats, we say, for we have sworn vengeance. Someday, the changelings will come again, and when they do, we will shed 2 drops of changeling blood for every one of the love cats shed in the forest that day. Some crimes are unforgivable. You see, Your Highness, where you had succeeded, I failed. You rescued captives out of the very teeth of Chrysalis, but I could not rescue even one poor, wretched love cat from the teeth of a flying flower. I have long known of you, I have long admired you, and Princess Celestia, for reasons she did not tell me, ordered me to be part of her honor guard at the Princess Summit where I finally met you. But even before I met you, I failed you. Shortly after the summit, I requested this tour of duty in Zimbabwe, for Equestria has made my heart heavy. Your Highness, I have heard that you've been passing new laws in Ponyville, trying different things in preparation for the kingdom you might rule one day. I heard how you established Cake Day, and of how you encouraged families to eat together. I heard about your baby animal sanctuary. I heard also that one of your friends recommended that you hold a contest to find the fastest Pegasi to serve as your personal guard. I am accounted a fast flyer, as I already said, but I will make no request of you. If I might ever have a place on your guard, I intend to earn that place, not ask for it. I chose this tour in Zimbabwe because I knew it would be hard. I chose it because I hope it will give me the chance to become a better guard than I am today. A guard worthy of Equestria's newest princess. I mentioned before that most guards are in love with Princess Celestia. Most, but not all. Some, in their hearts, dedicate themselves to one of the other princesses. Your brother, of course, the great Captain Armor, dedicated himself to Princess Cadence, and he has received more from his beloved than any other guard could dare ask or hope for. I do not presume to imagine that I might follow in his hoofsteps. A guard wants nothing more than to protect his princess, to stand watch over her, and to live and die in her service. I fear I am not yet a true guard, for I find that I want too much. I am also a coward, for I would never dare write these words if I were not soon to seal them up, give them away to the mail mayor, and flee to a distant land. Your Highness, Princess Twilight Sparkle, I love you. I have loved you since the moment I first heard your name, and I shall never love another so long as I live. I ask nothing of you, but when I have returned, I hope you will find me worthy of your service. Forgive me. Your faithful servant, Flash Sentry.
Dear Flash Sentry, your letter surprised me. You don't need to feel bad about writing to me, and you don't have to call me Your Highness or anything like that. I'm still not completely comfortable with the whole princess thing. I know I'm supposed to rule a kingdom someday, but right now, I hope it's not anytime soon. I like living in Ponyville, where I can just be the librarian and study and spend time with my friends. I don't even wear my crown most of the time. And you didn't run into me at the Princess Summit. I ran into you, so don't feel bad about that either. In the past few days, I've read your letter over and over again, trying to understand it and trying to decide how to respond. I know you're probably somewhere over Camelot by now, maybe even somewhere farther south. I'm not sure if this letter can reach you or not, Obviously, there's no Pony Express outside the border, and there's nothing on the schedule showing another ship heading out that way anytime soon. Unless I can work out a delivery spell that can reach a moving ship, I'm afraid this is just going to sit on my desk until you come back. 2 years, Flash? That's a long time. Maybe it will go quickly. After all, I've been in Ponyville for 3 years now. But sometimes it feels as if it were just yesterday that I arrived as a young student who didn't care at all about friendship. I hope the time does go quickly. I'd like to talk to you, and I wish you hadn't run off like this. I admit, it's true that I didn't know about you before the Princess Summit, but in a way, I feel almost as if we're friends, even though we only met briefly and barely spoke to each other. You see, something happened at the summit. Something strange. I don't really know how to say this, and I don't really want to say it, but you were honest with me, so I need to be honest with you. Besides, I know we won't see each other for 2 years, so, like you, I feel I can say things now that maybe I wouldn't say otherwise. While at the summit, I traveled through a magical mirror to another world, and I met ponies there. Well, no, they weren't ponies. I'm not sure what you'd call them. They walked on 2 legs, and instead of hoofs, they had hands, which had thumbs on them so they could hold things. Many of them were like ponies, I know, and they even had the same names. One of them looked a lot like you, and while I was there, I got kinda close to him. He helped me out once when I was in trouble. He watched out for me, just like how you say you want to watch out for me someday. The second time I ran into you was shortly after I came home to this world. Seeing you after seeing him, well, it left me confused. I'm still confused. I don't think you're a failure, Flash. I feel I failed you instead. Since I got your letter, I've kept thinking back over what happened when my friends and I went to Wovey Dovey Smoochie Land. I keep wondering if we could have done something different, if we could have somehow kept the trail of blood from happening. I let you down, Flash. It's my own fault, not yours. What you went through sounds really awful, but I know you did the best you could. Remember, you saved 5 love cats on your back, and those 5 wouldn't be alive if it weren't for you. They'd love you no matter what, of course, but I know that deep down, underneath the love that they have to show you, they genuinely appreciate what you did for them. My friends and I are often at the Love Cat refugee camp these days, mostly distributing food and helping out the doctors working there. When you get back, if you think you can, and if we haven't found a better place to move them to by then, you should join us. If you're up to it, I think you should visit the ones you rescued, at least. I'm sure they'd want to see you. We did talk a lot about the Love Cats at the Princess Summit, as you guessed. Maybe things don't have to be as bad for them as you think. Princess Luna suggested that we might be able to give them their own space where they can live away from ponies. That way, they could build their own society again, instead of just showing affection to every pony all the time. Princess Cadance is doing research into love magic. She thinks she might be able to use her powers to change their reaction a little so they can live alongside ponies, the same way griffins or minotaurs or gnomes can. We're still working on it, but we'll come up with something. Someday, those love cats you saved will be able to tell you how they really feel, and not just how they have to feel about you. Speaking of real feelings, I think it was the last part of your letter that left me the most confused. To be honest, after I read it, I was in bed for a day. I felt all twisted up and sick, almost as if I'd come down with feather flu. No pony's ever said something like that to me before, and I really don't know how to respond. I didn't even know what friendship was until just a few years ago, and I really don't know anything about this. Oh, why didn't you talk to me instead of running off, Flash? Did you think I was some pony important? Did you think I don't talk to ponies anymore just because I'm a princess? I'm the same old Twilight Sparkle I've always been, and I have a hard time getting every pony to understand that. I wish you and I already knew each other well, and then I'd know what to think and what to do and how to talk to you, and I wouldn't have to be so confused. Whenever I try to think of you, I always end up thinking of him, the other Flash Sentry I met in the other world. I admit, I had some strong feelings for him. I forget that he's not you and you're not him, and I get all mixed up. It's not fair to you that I have an image of somebody else standing in your place in my mind. The things I share with him, I never shared with you, even though it feels as if I have. I've only just met you, yet I feel I already know you. Is any of this making sense? I don't know what to think. 2 years? Maybe 2 years is right after all. Maybe in 2 years, I'll have things sorted out. I don't think you're a bad guard, Flash. I don't think you're a failure. You fought bravely to save others on the Trail of Blood, and you were thinking only of the Love Cats, not of yourself. I could tell that from what you wrote. Please don't feel bad. I admit, I am mad at you, though. Not because of what you did there, but because you've run away to Z Broadway instead of talking to some pony. You don't have to do anything to make me think you're worthy somehow. I think you're a wonderful guard already. You'll probably never even read this, but writing it has made me feel better. I don't know where I'll be in 2 years. Maybe I'll have a kingdom already, though I hope not. Wherever I am, when you come home, please come find me. I think we should talk. Stay safe, Flash, and hurry back. Sincerely, Twilight Sparkle. That was To My Princess on the Day of My Departure. It was written by D.G.D. Davidson and read by Scribbler with special guest voice actor Goombasa as the voice of Flash Sentry. Okay, thank you very much for listening. I'm going to have to keep this short, sweet, and quiet because everybody's gone to bed. I originally intended to have this uploaded either Saturday or Sunday, but situation kind of got away from me because on his European tour, if you like, I've got Reva Brony staying with me for a week, and I've been showing him around the bits of Britain where I live. And yesterday I managed to discover that apparently I don't know my own hometown as much as I thought I did, because we went for a bit of a walk, and I got us lost. And we were walking for 3 3/4 hours before we finally managed to find my car again. And he was very sweet about it, and he was very forgiving about it, but neither of us were in much of a position to do any recording last night. It was more a case of we went to get something to eat, and then we just went home and fell asleep. So instead you get this as a rather a late Monday upload instead, because we've been out again today, walking my dog. Quite frankly, his legs are probably going to fall off, and he'll be glad to leave this place when he finally moves on to the next leg of his tour. So, if anybody's wondering where he is at this point, he has got some things scheduled, but he's here with me. And that's why I'm kind of absent a lot of this week. Many thanks to Goombasa for recording this fiction, and also for his infinite patience with me because, according to the timestamp when I looked at the file he'd sent me, Gumbasta recorded the Flash Sentry's dialogue on the 24th of August, 2013. So yeah, nearly a whole year later, I finally managed to actually edit the fic and put it out for the masses. Yeah, I really hope it was worth waiting for. DGD Davidson, whose name I find apparently very difficult to say because I keep screwing it up and having to edit out my mistakes from this end blurb, he actually wrote one of my very favourite MLP fictions that I, as a G1 fan, really appreciated the level of effort that had gone into it, and it's called A Mighty Demon Slayer Grimson Ponies. And once upon a time I kind of nursed ideas of doing a reading of this, but it's 86, well, it's actually more than 86,000 words long, and I don't think I can face doing that kind of reading, but it is an immensely good fiction, and it's all about Megan from G1 Cartoon meeting the G4 incarnations of ponies, and it is just epically good, so if anybody can, go and read that. Right, in other news, No Place Like Home. I have sent out emails to all the main cast and their understudies. I have a few more emails to send out to people that I'm calling on to be Waller voices, and then that's it. So if by the end of this week you've not received an email, and please do check your spam filters and your junk boxes, because quite a lot of times people have told me that that's where my emails have ended up, because I've created a whole new email account for this. Please check, because if you haven't got one by the end of the week, then unfortunately it means that you weren't successful. That doesn't mean that I'm not interested in using you in a fic reading, so if you'd like to be involved in a fanfic reading, get in contact with me. Please check. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go for recasting for people who don't get back to me within the next week. And that's all I really have to say at this juncture, because I need to go off and sort myself out for Buck and for going out on yet another dog walk tomorrow with Reverb. So, I shall love you and leave you. Be lovely to each other, and good night, everybody.